Hello and welcome to this latest episode of Blipped In. I'm your co-host as always, Alan Ramich. Joined with me as always, apart from one episode where, he abandoned us guys.
Oh, brother.
My guy Quam. Quam, how you doing today, my friend?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We're back at it with the episode reviews, my brother. First episode of Loki was a lot, man. There was a lot in there, a lot of setup, a lot of emotion, a lot of everything. Like, what a great start to a series. And you said it best in the pre-show. This is the best kickoff of a live action series from Disney Plus that we've gotten so far. Out of the 3 that have released so far, this opening tops it. So I'm excited to dive in, my man. I'm excited.
It's if it continues in this vein, it could be by far the best show Disney have done when it comes to Marvel. Like, I legitimately believe that. Now, I think it will take a lot to displace WandaVision for me because of how good it was and how great the ending was, how it tied into everything, even though it was a little bit safe, right? Mm-hmm. But this was phenomenal. Like, I texted you straight away, didn't I? I was like,
yeah,
how good is this? Like, legitimately.
Yeah, it's been such a great start. Like you said, it covered so much. And like you said, not to usurp the other 2 series because those were great as well. But this one's gonna be so special in so many ways. Who doesn't love Loki? Owen Wilson has been phenomenal thus far. Like, and again, this is something that Disney hasn't ventured down before. You're like a time-hopping crime thriller almost. Like, this is a new thing to the MCU. And, I'm already, after episode 1, I already know this is going to be masterful. So
I'm still expecting Vince Vaughn to pop out from somewhere, right? Like,
at this point, hey, nobody's out of the question for popping up in the MCU. Nobody's about
Peter LaFleur. I just need one Peter LaFleur reference, right?
Yeah,
just to come out with a dodgeball, right? Like that would just make this show perfect.
Yeah, I mean, hey, with this one, it looks like anything is possible. So literally,
should we just dive into it because I really there's so much to talk about. There's so much to pack in. Let's just go over the opening. The opening I really liked because they basically recapped everything that happened in Endgame, and then they brought it to Loki being in Cambodia, right? And yes. It was some indigenous people from Cambodia, and he's trying to talk in English to them. And then you got guys popping out. Well, it seems like portals, right? Like
that's what I call them. Yeah, portals.
They're portals, right? But not in the same way that Doctor Strange and the people of Kamar-Taj create portals. They're different types, right?
Yes.
And it's a time variance authority. And I want to get your opinion on this part here, where the first interaction, because basically they give it to us straight away. There's no build up to Loki trying to escape the time variance authority or what have you. It's just there immediately, and he looks confused because he's never come across them before. Mm-hmm. What was your take on this start, like first 3-4 minutes of Loki?
Like you said, I like how they kind of just got to the point. Obviously, they recapped a quick piece of Endgame, and then, Loki picks up the Tesseract, and then, the opening credits kind of hit, and then you see him appear in Cambodia with the indigenous people. The start was really good. It was well-paced. And then, obviously, the time variance authority just pops up and, says, we found the variant, and Loki's kind of confused, and obviously he's this all-powerful god to the mortals. I mean, Asgardians are very powerful beings. I guess he's technically an ice giant, but you get the vibes. They're very powerful beings, and he doesn't seem to be impressed by whoever these people are. Obviously they came from weird portals, but he doesn't really seem to understand it. But like you said, they apprehended him real quickly. They hit him with that baton that made him move at like 1/60th of speed or whatever it was.
1/16th, yeah.
Yeah, the dude was moving super slow, but he felt all the pain like instantly, so that was cool. Just even that, like the type of tools that they use and how they've been able to do their job effectively, when ultimately they just seem kind of just like normal people. I don't know exactly what they are. Are they humans? What are they? But they seem like normal people, and obviously Loki thought they were just normal people till he got quick batoned and got that neck strap slapped on. But I like how the introduction happened. It showed the Time Variance Authority that, they're no slouches. They could go and apprehend almost whoever, whenever. And they did it to Loki fairly effortlessly when, he had previously just been terrorizing the entire Earth,
literally
right before that.
Literally terrorizing the entire Earth in New York, right? Like, it was ridiculous. The Time Variance Authority is a weird one, right? Because what it seems like to me is they want to be able to fit in anywhere. So let's just make him human. That's what it like, obviously we're going to get into them more because you get that little video explaining exactly who they are and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think that the people who serve the purpose for the Time Variance Authorities purposely made them human looking. So like you said, they can fit in at any point in any timeline, anywhere. Which is very interesting because, like, I want to know more. I know we get more information, but at this point, I'm like, well, I want to know more about the Time Variance Authority. Like,
yeah, and obviously, sorry.
What's their goal? What's their purpose? I know we find it out, but even that doesn't, like, I know we'll touch on it, but just to sort everything out and keep it on the sacred note, it doesn't make sense to me. Sorry, like, there must be something more there.
Right? I mean, it does even seem odd that, like, everything that's supposed to happen is already predetermined, and no matter what, but somehow you can break from that timeline and create multiverses, but then they'll, arrest you and you'll stand trial for your crimes. But technically, you can't go back to your same point in history where you created that offshoot of a timeline. That was a little odd to me, but I mean, I guess Loki was even struggling with that the whole episode. He's like, what do you mean? My decisions were my decisions. This wasn't already determined. They're like, yeah, sure. No, yeah, it actually was.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, the time variance, I mean, it seems like what did Loki call them? Space lizards? The magical space wizards that control time. To have these people look, like you said, humanoid. I mean, I guess nobody's ever been surprised by the appearance of a humanoid figure in any of, like, the aliens that run into them. It's just like, like, Star-Lord pops up, nobody's like, oh, what kind of creature are you? It seems like everybody's familiar with humanoid looking creatures, so I see what you're saying. That's where, so I see exactly why they probably made them that way. But I mean, like you said, they're no slouches. They seem like interesting people, and I'm very curious to see more about what they do and how often do these Nexus events happen? Like, that they have an entire organization that look like, thousands and thousands of people worth that are trying to maintain the sacred timeline. Like, when you think of it like that, it's like, I wonder how that goes.
But then it seems super empty, though, at the same time. When they actually went into the Time Variance Authority, there wasn't that many people that they apprehended. It was Loki and some really annoying New Yorker.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're the only two.
But, like, what effects make that happen? Because, I mean, obviously we saw Doctor Strange when he was using the Time Stone. He was kind of looking through many, many different scenarios. Like, how did it turn out to be that was going to be the one? If you can see different scenarios that would ultimately create a multiverse, that's where it got a little confusing to me, in my opinion. And even Loki knowing that the Avengers went back through time, how did he know that? Because 2012 Loki shouldn't have been able to know that they came back in time. But I guess he did say he could smell the cologne of two Tony Starks, which was kind of funny.
He did. He said two Tony Starks.
Yeah, he said he could smell the cologne of them. That's hilarious.
But yeah, like, I find it really, because the thing with this is the theories that you can have just off the first episode are insane, right? Like, insane. And let's just dive into the rest of the episode, because I'm real, like, we literally just spent 10 minutes talking about the first 3 minutes of the episode, right? Like,
right.
And that's what I feel like this whole series is going to be about, though, as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's going to be so much speculation because there is so much up for debate. I'll let you take over the next part.
Yeah, so I mean, just to kind of touch on your topic real quick, I think a lot of people are really going to resonate with this story a little bit more, just because it does have so many offshoots and opportunities. It's a lot like WandaVision in the sense of speculation is there, where Falcon and the Winter Soldier wasn't. It was a very linear TV series.
That was
So
a
it was very
movie.
linear. Yeah, it was very linear, but there wasn't much room for like anything extravagant to happen. Because I mean, these are just like common humans, super soldiers, whatever. But when you get into like cosmic stuff, time travel, magic stuff like that, that's where it gets so
Mephisto.
crazy. Yes, but
Sorry, I had a little bit of a cough there.
no, you're good. But see, that's where I think this can offer so much speculation, kind of give people that feeling of excitement that maybe they didn't have with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, like I said, I think when you look at each series in terms of character development, it's obviously huge. But I felt like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't get as much of the recognition that like WandaVision before it got because it was linear, because it's basically just a spy movie, broken apart and with a little bit of character development for Sam and Bucky. But I digress.
No, I agree with you. Like, I think that's a really good point
Mm-hmm.
that you made there. Just because it isn't like just because the Falcon and Winter Soldier was more linear doesn't mean that it was worse off or it was really bad or what have you. It was just different,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, we when we're doing these episodes, I think we prefer doing the breakdowns of one division in this just because there is so much that we can talk about and the possibilities that we can branch out into are ridiculous, right? But at the same time,
Yeah.
I've really, really enjoyed the Falcon and Winter Soldier, man.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to get lost.
I agree with you 100%. It's just because it was linear doesn't mean it was bad. But again, I think because it didn't seem to necessarily push the phase 4 agenda as far as people had wanted it to. Like I said, with WandaVision, there were so many theories that people were coming out with every single episode. Who's this next character they're going to introduce? Who's this engineer? Where are they going? Does Wanda start?
Where's Reed Richards?
Yeah, like people's heads were spinning with WandaVision because they thought so many things were supposed to happen. And the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what did you really think was going to happen? You just knew that he was going to become everything that happened is what people thought was going to happen.
Apart from Sharon being the power broker.
Yes, but I think the moment you saw the type of shit she was doing, it was like, oh, yeah, she's probably the power broker. So like there wasn't a lot of mystique there where there is with these two series. So yeah. But yeah, moving on with the episode, obviously we'll the whole beginning portion once he is captured by the Time Variance Authority. It's kind of just going through a bunch of like wacky rooms and kind of just being teleported around. It's kind of funny to see his reaction because he has absolutely no idea what's going on. And obviously, this group again is very powerful because he can't do what he wants to do. There's a point where he tries to pull out his weapons and his dagger, kind of change his outfit as we've seen him do before, and he couldn't do it. And they were kind of mocking him that he couldn't change his powers. He's talking about, his Asgardian leather, and, they just zapped that shit right off and gave him, a standard jumpsuit. Like, they made him sign for everything he ever said. He says something else, and they print out a new sheet of paper and be like, yeah, sign that too. So, like, there was a lot of comic relief in that whole section. And just kind of, humbling Loki that's like, oh, like this is serious business, and these are people that obviously have a power that he's never seen before. So like I said, he kind of goes to the line, and then he has that, and then he expresses, I shouldn't be here, and then the TV pops up with Miss Minutes, and she gives that awesome breakdown of the main timeline, how multiverses are created, what Nexus beings are, and why they're a threat to the sacred timeline, the time variance organization authorities purpose, and like really all in like a 3-minute video. So beautiful. Like that a perfect way to encompass everything, gives you all the knowledge, and it was in a fun instructional video that kind of explains where Loki is and why he's here. So they give it to you very quick, sweet, to the point, and didn't really waste a lot of time explaining it. But that whole montage is fantastic. It explains even a lot of things that kind of even happened with WandaVision, because I mean obviously they tease that she's a Nexus being as well, but obviously the Time Variance Authority hasn't arrested her yet or has attempted to or anything. So like I said, beautiful rendition of that story, that kind of, or that instructional video that Loki got to see and kind of explains where he's at. So we move on. You see Owen Wilson, looks like they're in some sort of like chapel, I want to say.
There's one thing on the video before we move on to Owen Wilson and Mobius. I know it was very light-hearted and the voice was very sweet and whatnot, but did you feel like a sense of ominousness around it, right? Like, I felt like there was very dark undertones to it it reminded me a lot of WandaVision in the sense of they're trying to mask the darkness by giving you like very fun characters like Agnes was right at the start. I feel like it's the same type of thing here.
Yeah,
That's the feeling I get from watching it.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like this is very reality altering instances, and obviously you can't just be any old Joe Schmo. I mean, I guess maybe you could to violate the entire timeline. This is like some serious stuff, and like you said, they kind of masked it with like a fun cartoony character, the whole cartoon montage. But like this is serious stuff that seems to set up a lot of what happens moving forward in this phase 4. So I think it's dope, and I think it continues to play into your point that they're slowly going to introduce this horror scene into the MCU.
They're already in the horror bag, man. They're already in there.
They're throwing it at us early, but I see it. I see it with you.
And now we move on to this part in the chapel.
This next scene, which is literally horror, like it's that darkness. So obviously they're observing this chapel. Owen Wilson, Mobius with some TVA operatives. I don't know what you want to call them, officers. Whatever.
Let's call them operatives. Operatives sounds good.
Cool. So it's TVA operatives. They're kind of searching, looking for something. Not quite sure what it is. Obviously, some kid runs in the room, and they like kind of look at him. The operatives, kind of get ready to ready their weapons. And Mobius is like, hold on. Let me talk to this kid. So he goes up to the kid, and the kid hands him, he hands him a little device where he's able to draw like a stick figure thing for the kid to kind of put the kid at ease. So he hands it to the kid
as well.
Yes. So the kid looks at Mobius asks, do you know who did this? And the child points at the what are those? What is it called?
The stained glass window.
The stained glass window. That's what it's called. Points to the stained glass window, and obviously it is literally the devil. And Mobius states that he's like, he expresses that that devil, has no jurisdiction, or he's afraid of us time people, more or less. Kind of expressing that obviously they understand the power of the quote unquote devil, which we all think is Mephisto. I mean, could they have thrown that any more in your face without really throwing it in your face? That's like Mephisto. They basically all but said his name. Who else is the devil in the MCU? Let me know.
He's in a suit as well. It's Mephisto.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, I don't think there's any other way that I could explain who that is. But obviously, they give that little piece that, okay, look, we have this villain, obviously. But again, they're not going to throw it right in your face. It's going to be a slow burn yet again. I think, obviously.
I don't think we see him again in this series.
Probably not. But obviously, this is going to pique a lot of people because they're like, whoa, that was when I saw that immediately, and I'm sure tons of people did. Mephisto. Right out.
I bet you thought of me because of how many Mephisto theories I had in WandaVision. I bet you got excited that I finally got somewhere with that, and that I wasn't completely off the books there.
Exactly.
It's leading to it. I really believe that we'll get it in a couple of years' time. We won't get Mephisto yet.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm very curious as to what this means. But so obviously this timeline, this variant timeline that they're in, was created by what we assume is Mephisto, correct? I think that's what we can kind of all pull from this portion of the episode. And like I said, Mobius states, he's like, don't worry, that devil's afraid of us. And he's like, but we're going to get you back to where you belong. So, and then, the child gives him, what is it, like a pack of gum or something?
Yes.
And I don't even remember what the pack of gum said on it.
It was like a blueberry type gum. Let me see if I can find it for you.
Yeah.
It's a very kablooey gum.
Yeah. So it was a blue gum because obviously the child had like blue teeth. And, nobody, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the kablooey gum means, but I mean, is that, maybe that's a Easter egg that I've yet to discover exactly what that is. But again, this scene already shows that there's multiple events that the TVA is dealing with. And obviously this one was created by the quote unquote devil. So
So apparently, according to some people, the character on the gum is very reminiscent of Nightmare in some of the comics.
mhm,
So Nightmare obviously ties into Mephisto as well. So
yeah,
we're definitely going down the devil route here, like
yeah,
100%. And
yeah,
even, I mean, Mobius even says it: the devil always comes bearing gifts. Like
mhm,
it literally says it to you in your face.
yeah,
And the thing with Marvel is they've given us like so many theories in these episodes, right?
yeah,
But they don't shirk away from when they're actually trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you that the devil's going to be involved in this somehow, which is
somehow.
Mephisto, right?
Hmm.
Now, will he be in this series? I don't think so.
No,
But will
probably
he
not.
have people working for him, even if they don't realize that they're working for him? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where I am with it, and we talked about it before we start recording.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely do believe that to some capacity he's behind this. I think he's the ultimate mastermind, and it's similar to it, like how Thanos was kind of in the shadows for a long time, but was orchestrating a lot of what was going on through 13 straight movies. But you only got glimpses of him. You maybe got an end credit scene with him once or twice, but for the most part, you didn't really see too much of him. He just kind of laid low until it was his time to come to the forefront. And I think we could expect a similar thing here because, like you said, we keep getting these minor references of this super powered being, this devil, and this is probably the most in your face one that we've gotten thus far,
I'm
easily.
happy with it.
Exactly. But like you said, I don't think they're gonna I think that was their tease for now, and they're just gonna kind of bury it back a little bit and leave that nugget for you to discover and kind of move on with the rest of the story. But um so we continue on with Loki, and he's kind of standing his trial, and he's pleading that it doesn't make sense that why he's here, because he's like, he wouldn't have been here had the Avengers not originally gone back in time. He's like, you're not, I'm not the person you should get. You should be getting the Avengers because I didn't do any of this. Like this only happened because they came back in time. And they're like, no, that was actually supposed to happen. You were supposed to end up in the Asgardian jail, not the other way around. So obviously, at this point, they're getting ready to, I guess, lock him up. And Mobius steps in and is like, you know what? Let me take him. Obviously, he has some grand plan. And, he kind of sits Loki down and really tries to dive deep into his character as to why he does what he does. Obviously, he knows everything about Loki. And Loki's kind of, being a little combative about, like, how he does things, why he does things, and even, like, his decision making. And it's not all dictated by magical space lizards. Like, he does what he wants. And Mobius is like, yeah, sure. Okay, sure you do. But still, why do you do what you do? Do you get enjoyment from hurting people, causing pain? And Loki's like, no, his glorious purpose, he's owed to be a ruler. Very remnant of this 2012 Loki, because that was his obsession at that point. He wants to be a ruler, which is very different than later on, where he just kind of understands his role. And he's just there to kind of gain whatever he needs to gain in his development with Thor. So this Loki, obviously, you can tell the stark differences already in who their character is. But I want to get your opinion on the conversation back and forth with Mobius and Loki about Loki's life, and obviously he shows him how things were supposed to go, and Loki just can't understand that. How is this all possible? And what he thinks is power in the grand scheme of things is so insignificant.
So, Tom Hiddleston, obviously being Loki, did such a great job here, in my opinion, man.
Mm-hmm.
Because he played the role how he would how he would feel if basically this happened to him in real life, right?
Yeah.
Like it was perfect. It was how we'd all react. It's like,
Yes.
there's no way that's me. You guys are making this up.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys know all this? My future's not decided for me.
Yeah.
It's so. Just the delivery was great. His feelings, his emotions were great. Everything about it was really, really top notch. The only thing that I maybe would have done is, instead of it being like some hologrammy type thing, like for them to like bring him into that world, right? Where it's like a CGI type thing, where it's like you're there next to him, but you can't really do anything about it, right?
Yeah, like basically like he's like a ghost on the scene.
Yes. We've seen it in other things, but I think it would have worked really, really well here. I mean, this works really well as well, but I would have done that, because him seeing his mum die like that would have been even more hard hitting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's not like you have to refilm all this either. It's like you just insert them in there. You know, you have hundreds of millions of dollars to play with.
That's true. And again, it even shows a little bit more about Loki's character at this point. Because, like I said, we didn't really get a ton of him from that point, but obviously, you see that he does care about his mother. More than you probably would have thought that variant of Loki did. Like, even Mobius expresses that, you're the one who got her killed, but that's how it's supposed to be. You set her up the wrong stairwell, they got your mom and they murdered her. So,
Yes.
and he's freaking out. He's like, where do you have her? Where's she at? He's like, this is what happens. And he's like, it hasn't happened. And he's like, well, that's what's supposed to happen. But because you're obviously a variant, that's not what you're experiencing, but you will. It will happen. So
it will happen eventually. Is what Mobius is trying to tell him.
And like, it's so interesting to just see Loki not be able to come to grips with this, because this is like a thing that even a lot of people in the world now kind of experience. Like, especially people of faith. Like, is your path predetermined, or is it? Or do you get to make your own decisions? Like,
or
that's
is it
like
a bit of both.
Exactly. Or is it a bit of both? And I think people have been trying to figure out what that is, even in just like common people. So I think even the common person can relate to that. Like, so what is everything I'm doing just what was meant to happen? Or am I choosing the path that I get to choose? And you see Loki struggle with that. And I think that making people feel more humane, which is Marvel's fantastic at doing. A villain previously, you're making him feel his humanity. I mean, you saw the emotion when he saw his mother die. You see his emotion when he, later looks through his own timeline and sees himself die and sees his development with Thor and sees Odin pass away and all that he never got to truly experience, but he got to watch it. And it kind of, almost gives him this moment where he kind of feels a little hopeless for a second. He's kind of like, wow, so like that's how it ends. Like, but then he kind of sees like, no, that's not how it's gonna end, because I'm a variant. And he kind of seems to get back into his Loki gig a bit. But I thought that was incredible. That whole piece right there, this entire scene with Mobius and him, Loki looking at
So to return to our point before Quam's internet just absolutely gave out on us there.
Technical issues. That American internet's not that great. Don't get it twisted.
We can see. So finish off the point you were making, my friend.
Yeah, I don't even remember what it was, to be honest.
So it was about Mobius, the Loki, the whole scene, how phenomenal you thought it was, the whole production side of things. How great it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic scene in totality. I mean, like I said, you get to see that humane portion of Loki that we hadn't gotten to see. Obviously, like you said, he's a variant now. So I think he feels at this point, now that he's a variant, he gets to dictate how things go. So is he going to try and make things right? What is the full agreement that he's going to settle in with the TVA? Obviously, the series previews that he's going to work alongside them to capture the other variant that they've been hunting, which they revealed to be himself. So I think that's going to be a big piece of just I think this is a Loki that obviously sees his future, but because he's a variant now, he can decide a little bit more what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't reset him, because they made a big point about resetting everyone, right?
Yes.
And bringing them back to what their path should be.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they haven't done this says a lot about what Mobius actually thinks of Loki as a person, right?
Yeah.
That's where I am with it.
And honestly,
Mobius sees the good in Loki.
Yeah, and that's why he asked them all those questions. He's like, "Do you enjoy hurting people? Like, what is your purpose? Like, why do you do what you do?" And obviously Loki's able to self-discover that, it's all an illusion, created by the weak to gain control.
Yes.
And he says that about himself. Originally, he says that was what the TVA's purpose was. But then, after being able to look at everything in his future and kind of be able to reflect, he realizes that whole plot is for himself. He's the one who's the quote unquote weak character that has to make all these illusions happen of enjoying hurting people, killing people, all that to gain control.
Definitely, I'm in complete agreement with you there. And obviously, we get the part where Loki escapes. Mobius leaves the room to get reprimanded for not resetting Loki, and then when he comes back, Loki's escaped.
Yeah.
This was my favorite part of the episode, right? Like,
yeah.
because he's basically where he finds Casey. He tells him, Casey's the guy at the front desk, by the way, guys. We didn't mention him at the beginning, but Casey, I think, is going to be great comic relief in this, man. I really, really enjoyed his character already.
I agree. It's been fantastic. And like you said, I mean, Casey's a phenomenal character just being added into the whole story. Obviously his and Loki's banter back and forth about, he said, "I'm going to gut you like a fish." He's like, "What's a fish?" And, even that whole portion, hilarious. Like, it doesn't get much better than that in terms of comic relief. You love that, Marvel's able to throw in these, these fun characters in the midst of a fairly serious scene, We just got done with Loki, obviously seeing his future up to the point of his mother being killed. And, he's kind of trying to figure out how he can get back into his main timeline, or, can he just grab the Tesseract and be fine? This dude just open his drawer of his desk, and, there's Infinity Stones all over the place, and, he just casually pulls out the Tesseract and gives it to him. And, he kind of sees in the grand scheme of things, those Infinity Stones aren't that powerful. But to him, they were like the greatest, pieces of to acquire power in the universe. And, the TVA's using them as paperweights. Like, it's nothing to him. So I think that whole piece right there was incredible. That kind of, again, shapes how big this universe really, really is.
Did you see how many Infinity Stones there were?
Yeah. You thought there was only, the 5 of them? But no, there was, the dude had duplicates, doubles, extras.
There was 2 soul stones in there as well. I'm like,
yeah,
dudes have been giving up souls forever.
Clearly, but look at that.
But yeah, if I was Loki, pardon the pun, I Loki would have put 6 Infinity Stones in my pocket, and then when I came back into the real world, I would have been like, I'm the most powerful man in the world again.
Exactly.
But he didn't, which again shows Loki's humanity, right? He's a good person. He's just a bit drunk on power at this point. That's my feeling of Loki right now.
Yeah.
So, a really, really nice part. I like it because it broke up the seriousness of the episode. Because if we would have just gone from seeing Frigga die to go to see Loki, I think it would have been too dark. Do you know what I mean? It would have been too much for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously Loki gets his revenge on the TVA person that tortured him a little bit.
Yeah.
She was stuck in a time loop that Loki was stuck in thanks to the neck strap, right? This was a great little piece as well. I love this part as well because Loki exerted his what he thought was like a hell for him. He's exerted back on her because you can tell that they've never been through that stuff before. These TVA people.
Yeah.
So that was a nice little spin on things that I liked at this point as well.
Yeah, and I mean, he even questions is this the most powerful force in the universe? He was in such shock and awe about everything. But I mean, like you said, them breaking it up was probably a very sound move. Because yeah, seeing just two deaths back to back. One, I just think for Loki's character would be like too heavy, but being able to kind of throw in this again yet another comic point and then yet another like self-realization point for Loki, I think was a very good way to break it up. But man, what a great scene that they were able to put together right there. Just for him to kind of really discover how big everything is and that he's not the biggest thing and what is actual power. And I wonder, I mean, if that's even his purpose anymore. I mean, he always talked about this glorious purpose. He says it again once he kind of watches his recap of himself dying at the hands of Thanos, glorious purpose. But what is this variant's glorious purpose now is what I'm very interested in, because he kind of saw what it was meant to be, but what is it going to be now? And obviously, I think it's safe to assume he probably won't be reset when it's all said and done, right?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Because if there's a season 2, I know they've tried to deny it in the past few days, but I think there will be a season 2.
Yeah.
Because they quashed it immediately on both Falcon and WandaVision. It was like, no, this is just this is what you're getting, guys. We might revisit it later down the road. But whereas the Feige's like, oh, well, the door's open to a second season. We have to. There's a second season of Loki coming, right? We can agree on this.
It's gotta be. I mean, let's just talk about what we know for now. I mean, so say he's able to stop the other variant of himself that's out here terrorizing timelines. Let's say he does that. What's his reward? Like, there's gotta be a term that settles to why he would do this, or else why doesn't he just get reset now? What's the point of him doing all these good deeds if he's gonna get reset anyway? In my opinion, they could totally be like, yes, like, got you guys, dummies. But I just feel like that'd be too shallow of a storyline. I feel like he's got to get some reward that's long lasting if he does complete this mission for the TVA. That's my opinion.
Does he, like, if it is just Loki and Mobius being in cahoots for the rest of the time, I'd be down with that. I could watch this every week. I could watch 6 episodes of this every year. I really could. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, we're only 1 episode deep, and already you can see the chemistry between the characters. You see the style of how they want to portray it. You see, like, Loki's character development already, and you've seen so much in him that 1 episode that you really got from essentially Avengers and, like, earlier. Like, you already get more in this 1 40-minute episode as compared to everything we ever saw from him before. And again, I think this episode had probably the best pacing of any opening episode in terms of being able to set up a great story, give you all the adequate information you need without obviously spoiling the entire rest of the series. So, I mean, again, well done by Disney. Great job. I'm loving it already.
Honestly, it's my favorite opening of a lot of series, not just Marvel series. This has just been like we're obviously recapping it and whatnot, but just in general, it's just a really, really strong start to a show.
Yeah,
and like when do you get Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston in a TV show?
Nowhere you're getting that.
You're not getting it, and we need to like people are so quick to jump on criticism. We need to enjoy stuff like this because we won't get it. Like, even like, it's not a Disney show, it's not a Marvel show. But when Al Pacino was on Amazon Prime's Hunters, that felt special to me because Al Pacino's never in TV shows, right?
Exactly.
This feels special to me, seeing these guys who are usually never in TV shows, in a TV show, and it could go on even further, right? That's what gets me excited. Because like you say, there must be some type of reward for Loki at the end of this. Because it makes no sense to just like, go, oh, yeah, bye Loki. You're back to being 2012 Loki again. See you later, bye.
Yeah.
And when people do get reset, do they have the memory still of everything that happened when they tried?
Don't think so. I think when they showed that instructional video, I think when they were reset, they just kind of went back in there at the point where they were supposed to be and just continued on with their standard, trend line.
You see, it adds a whole different dimension to this whole Marvel stuff, right? The Time Variance Authority. obviously we knew they were coming, but seeing them implemented as basically being the strongest, like, because bar none, they're the most powerful people in the MCU right now.
Gotta be,
They're the
yeah.
strongest.
Has to be.
So, just they obviously go back into the room. Mobius and Loki are talking. Loki admits that he tried to use a tesseract to leave multiple times, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't." And then we obviously get to that point where, you mentioned that quote, a couple of times so far. He's seen his death, he's seen his mortality, and he's realized that it's just him being weak. That's why he's preyed on people.
Yes.
And I don't even think Loki in the original timeline, the one that got killed in Infinity War, I don't think that Loki ever had that realization. I think he had certain epiphanies, but he never got to that point. So we're already seeing way more character development, like you mentioned, in like 25 minutes so far than we have over like 7 films.
That's true. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. That self-realization point, I think, was huge for him. Because, I mean, he always did, I guess, when you think of mischief, like, what is that? Like, even Mobius is kind of poking fun at that. Like, so what do you mean you just, like, what do you mean mischievous? Like, what does being the god of mischief mean?
Yes.
Like, what is all that? And, Loki was even kind of struggling to say that, but he was just kind of talking about, I'm owed, power. I'm supposed to be a ruler. Like, people should bow down to me. I'm all powerful. And, he's just kind of like, yeah, sure. And I think obviously, because this is the Loki that was pulled from that 2012 timeline where that was his obsession. Glorious purpose, who I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be this ruler. And then that kind of being, like, flipped over. It's like, you never do become that ruler that you thought you would. You kind of die a pitiful death, in all honesty. I mean, you just kind of got strangled, like with like helplessly,
yeah.
Like you said, I think he realized that at that point, his weakness has caused a lot of pain and suffering, not only for himself, but for other people. Because like you said, he got his mother killed. Thor had to deal with a whole bunch, and then he died. So Thor has to grieve his own passing. So like, it's just so many things that I think he noticed that his weakness caused. And I think that's a huge point that helped develop this character again so far in just one quick episode. That was able to encompass a lot that we had not known, seen. And I think it sets up a whole lot of how his mindset's going to be moving forward. Because, again, this is a Loki that we don't know. It's a variant. This is different. So he's not anything we've seen before, but he has seen what his future's supposed to be. What is he going to make his future now that he's going to be working with the TVA?
Definitely. And it's very, very interesting, right? Because I don't want... We speculated quite a bit so far, but I don't want to speculate on this because I feel like we'll get more answers in the next episode pertaining to what is Loki's actual reward for helping out the TVA.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's coming, because we never even really got round to the part where Mobius asked him to officially join. He just told him that the variant that they're going after is Loki. He didn't say join me. He wants him to join, you can tell, but he hasn't said it yet.
Hasn't formally asked.
Yeah, so I'm really intrigued to see how they approach that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, there's got to be some terms of agreement again, or else what will be his incentive if he's going to be reset regardless? I know he did. I mean, so that's where I'm very intrigued. Like you said, like what is this? What are the terms of service? What is this all about? And I mean, how is he going to go about catching himself? I mean, it is himself, but is he going to know what he's?
It's a different type? No, it's a different person.
And how is Loki been able to continue to break the timeline? Because obviously there's this variant and there's another variant that seems to be substantially more dangerous.
Yeah.
So where are all these variants coming from? How, obviously I'm curious, and obviously the TVA is struggling to catch that variant because you saw, basically it blow up an entire timeline right in front of them. So like, what is his purpose? What is he doing? And that's why I'm curious. Does that Loki that they're trying to catch just become the Loki we're watching, or does he stop that Loki? Like, what is the totality of this series? Does he become that person that they are eventually trying to stop? It's just kind of that fun loop that creates multiverse after multiverse, or what is it?
So the one question I have is how it ties into Nexus beings and WandaVision, because obviously we got the Nexus pill.
Yes.
Was that just leading to Loki, or does this tie into Wanda and the Scarlet Witch by any chance? I want your opinion on that because I think that's a really important point as well.
That's a very good question, but I mean, it seems as if at the bare minimum, there's at least two Nexus beings. We see Loki already do it. Apparently, he's done it multiple times. So something that he has an ability to do. I mean, to break these timelines, and then Wanda as well. But again, it's interesting to see that we didn't see anything about the TVA with Wanda. Obviously, I don't think she's broken the fabric of time just yet, but I'm curious.
She's about to.
That's what it seems like. I mean, obviously, going through the Darkhold and all that. There's, and even trying to bring her kids back or whatever it may be. At this point, she's such a powerful being, and obviously, reading from the Dark Arts book that she, obviously doesn't know is a Dark Arts book right now. And just kind of has the one mission of finding a way to bring back her children. That again sets up so much. I think Loki's going to shed a lot of light on that and even, set the premise of, I think it will help explain some of the future of WandaVision, explain, the multiverse of madness. Because, I mean, again, they talk about the multiverse literally being in madness. If there are too many variants, that's why the TVA was created, like literally. So that's where I get interested, because even when Mobius is in that chapel talking to that child, this devil's able to create these extra timelines. They haven't caught him yet, but they obviously say he's scared of us. But what is he scared of, and how, if he's so scared, how come they haven't found him yet? So the TVA, while being extremely, extremely powerful, I'm not quite sure. I don't think they're necessarily all powerful, because obviously we watched them in that final clip of the episode essentially get torched. So they're very powerful, but there seem to have been successful beings that have been able to shake their hold. Obviously, it seems like Mephisto is one of them, and this super variant of Loki is also one of them. And will Wanda be one of those as well? I would suspect that as well. So I'm very interested to see just where this all goes, because, like I said, they've been dangling multiverse Nexus beings in our face for a long, long time. Goes back to Spider-Man Far From Home, where even Mysterio's talk about he came out of a multiverse. The multiverse thing seems to be very big. While it seems like obviously he probably wasn't as right, but I'm curious to see where this ties in, because I think the end of this series is going to open up so much for us in terms of what we thought we knew and where we really know things are going to go.
Definitely, man. And just one thing I do want to mention on the on the whole multiverse, Nexus beings, that whole type of thing. I'm really intrigued as to how they're going to tie everything together.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, Quentin Beck, even though he said he's from a different multiverse, but he wasn't, there's a real possibility that could tie into this. Obviously, WandaVision is a huge part of this. Obviously, leading to No Way Home and Doctor Strange.
Mm.
This is, honestly, when we get more answers later on in the series, it's going to make me even more excited for both of those films, man.
Exactly. Because, like, even at Far From Home at the end, with the original Spider-Man trilogies, J. Jonah Jameson popping up, like, at some point was a multiverse opened up that we hadn't quite realized happened. Like, where did that piece come from? Because, like I said, obviously it's teased in the next Spider-Man movie, but that ending seems so odd. I mean, I think at the time people just thought it was a fun cameo, but was that more than just a fun cameo? And is that because the dealings of WandaVision and Loki affected that storyline?
Because both WandaVision and Loki are technically set before Spider-Man Far From Home. Correct. So there's a real possibility that the multiverse was opened, and that's why we got that version of J. Jonah Jameson, obviously the original version from the first few films.
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued. And Loki, again, pardon the pun, I'm really glad it wasn't Stephen A. Smith. I just want to say that. I'm so glad they didn't make J. Jonah Jameson Stephen A. Smith.
Well, I mean, yes, that might have been odd, but...
Do you not remember when he was caping for it on First Take?
I remember that he said he should be...
Thank you, God. Thank you, God.
That would have been great, but like I said, I mean,
If by great you mean really horrible, then yeah, I agree. It would have been great.
Yeah. Just peachy. But yeah, you do make a really good point with saying that obviously the timelines, these two events essentially happened before the events of even Far From Home. So what are the repercussions that happen? Obviously, we keep getting told Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness feeds off of the events that happen in Spider-Man. So this is all setting up, and I think Loki is a huge part because for the most part, up until the first couple trailers, they were pretty ho hum about Loki. They didn't really talk too much about the series. You just knew that he had a solo series coming up, right? Like they didn't really talk too much about the contents of the story or none of that. But they were quick to kind of, throw what the next Spider-Man was about to be, and obviously the Doctor Strange title. I mean, that can't be any more in your face. But that's where I get really, really, really interested about Loki even more because this was kept under such wraps in a similar way WandaVision was. That series felt like it was just so put under a blanket and you didn't really know what it was going to be. I feel like they've done that same thing with Loki because it has such pivotal implications moving forward.
Definitely. So I'm very, very excited. But before we round things up, obviously we've mentioned the end scene where this mysterious person flames everything and lights up the TVA before they have time to reset everything. Who was that? Is that super? Is this a super variant of Loki? Is it someone else? Is it Mephisto? I don't think it is Mephisto, but I'm going to ask the question. They did that so perfectly that we have no idea who it is. Exactly. And I can't wait for Wednesday.
Just a hooded figure that just drops a lantern and scorches everything. Like, who is that? What is that? And obviously, the flames kind of went in like an interesting pathway. Like when he dropped it, it kind of like forked. I'm not sure like what was his plan and how dangerous is this being? I mean, is it Loki? I think it might be. I think that's kind of what they're teasing is that it is Loki. But, like you said, before they're fully able to reset the timeline, he burns them all and takes the little device that they have that does, kind of nuke the timelines. But, I mean, is the fire just remnants of Mephisto? Is that more of a tease? Flames? Who knows? I mean, it could be a couple things. But obviously, this being, again, yet is no slouch, whether it is this Loki variant or if it is Mephisto. But I doubt it's Mephisto again. I don't see them throwing him in our face center.
Could it be? Loki, could this super variant of Loki turn into Nightmare? Or we find out Nightmare was controlling Loki. And that's the big villain that they deal with in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
That could be. I mean, I could totally see him even, double promising because, Loki, he's always going to do what's in the best interest for him. So did he start out promising the TVA and then someone else comes with a better offer that seems more suited towards him? Because even though he does have this self-realization, I'm not necessarily convinced he's given up the point of power. If some all-powerful being offers him power again, would he turn it down? I don't know. I can't say for sure he would.
Which is why I'm having the Nightmare and Loki thing.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what he's quite going to do. But, I mean, again, the tie-ins with all the multiverse business before. But, I mean, when we talk about time travelers, obviously, apparently Loki's nexus being. Yes. We all know about Kang the Conqueror. It looks like Wanda's absolutely one of them as well. And I guess even like the character that's supposed to make her debut in Doctor Strange, America Chavez, who also can time travel as well. So where does she come in and what's her purpose? And I mean, is this also going to be an issue with the TVA? I wouldn't be shocked if this isn't the last we see of the TVA beyond this series, because it sounds like there's a lot of multiverse business that's about to start getting pretty gnarly. And, if somebody can obviously bend time to their will and still be on the run from the TVA, you got to be a pretty powerful being. Am I right?
Definitely, like 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very interested to see where this leads.
Yeah.
Quam, while I still have you and the gremlins don't eat your internet again, where can the good people find your work?
Find me on Twitter at Laquam James. That's about it. Find me here. As always, frequent contributor to the Late Night Lake Show podcast, the pregame show. Every now and then I pop in on my boy Alan and jump in on his Lakers side chat podcast as well. But I mean, I know you're working on a lot, Alan. Go ahead and tell
Oh,
the good
man.
people where they can find you, because it's
First of
everywhere at
all-
this point.
First of all, in the Lakers side chats, got a very interesting conversation coming very soon about xenophobia in the NBA and how we discuss certain players and how we belittle them compared to others based on where they're from and whatnot, which I'm very excited to talk about.
Wow.
Because it directly ties into the MVP of this league, of the NBA, not of Marvel, obviously,
That is true, yes.
and also the best young player in the NBA. It directly ties into him as well. So, shout out to the Lakers side chats. I'm also very much on the Under the Bus podcast as well, another Laker podcast. The Direct Snap NFL podcast is something I'm very much involved in. One of the co-hosts there, and obviously, I'm part of a launch of a media group / podcast network next Saturday called the 19 Media Group. We're launching it on June 19th. Very excited about that. Jabari Davis, as you know, Kwam, great guy. He's the head honcho, as I like to call him, or the big boss man. He hates it, but it's the truth. I'm very excited to be part of that as well. So yeah, a lot of things going on in the ether, and also we get to talk about Loki every week. So
Exactly.
it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, man. And obviously plug the Creative Eye Studios as well, where you can find Blipped in.
Yes. So make sure you guys, you check out all those ventures. There's a lot of good stuff brewing. Alan especially has a ton of content coming out. Keep your eye on that. Stay tuned. Support. Leave a like. 5-star review. Whatever it is.
Everywhere.
Tell a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend.
Definitely. And as I always say, stay safe. Please get your vaccine if you can. Wear a mask. Wash your legs.
Wash them.
Please. And just have a good day, guys. Take care.
Until the next
See you
one.
later.
Tell me your name.
Wonder Vision. Is that everyone? You wanted more? You could not live with your own failure.